What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the official Gin Pros podcast / live stream. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. Today, we're podding / live streaming in collaboration with the best podcast in the capital city, Trill Pod. Chris, how you doing today, brother? We're with Chris Platty. Obviously, been here a lot, been here many, many times. So he's not a surprise guest to this show, but a very common visitor, I guess, kind of commentator, whatever you want to call it. He is always on the show. So, Chris, how you doing today, bro?
Man, yeah, definitely common at this point. Good to be back here. Good to be with you, man. I always enjoy linking up for our discussions, and I'm excited. I'm excited for today, man. I'm glad we were able to get this in and make this work. And I'm trying to somehow, while I'm doing the live stream, figure out why the sun is setting perfectly right now, and it's just peeping through the blinds, and you can see the little reflections on my face, and it's driving me crazy. But we're gonna rock with it.
That's crazy. I have a window just to my right that gives me the same trouble all the time because it seems like I'm always podding or live streaming around 7 o'clock, 7:30.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like golden hour, so it'll give me some trouble. So I gotta tweak the blinds a little bit, make sure it's not blinded myself, and I'm not washed out on the frame of the shot of the stream. So it's a constant battle, but we're gonna make it work.
Yeah, the lighting in here is horrible for me, man. I gotta honestly just quit the bullshit and invest in some lights because this yellow lights, after doing all the professional stuff with the studios downtown and everything that I do in Detroit, like I've just realized how gross yellow light is. Like I'm over yellow light. I need to invest in those big ass LED beaming white lights to get myself looking right. But
Exactly.
We're gonna rock through it.
We definitely are. So we have a great treat today. We're going to talk about The Off-Season by J. Cole. So we prefaced this a little bit on the show Chris and I did probably a couple weeks ago now. We were talking about the NBA playoff picture, which we're well into that at this point as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit after we talk about the off-season. So really exciting stuff here. The album has been released. It's been out for a little bit now. So let me just ask you about your takeaways from this album. What are you seeing? What are you hearing from this album that either surprised you or confirmed your previous notions on how it was going to turn out?
Well, I had high expectations coming into the album, and I think that judging the consensus of removing my personal opinion of the album, the general consensus is that there was very high expectation for this to be in the upper echelon of Cole's discography, and it seems like for a lot of people it is. There's little sectors of groups that have thoughts of thinking it is underwhelming, but for the most part, pretty much everybody that is either neutral on J. Cole or loves J. Cole, even the people that dislike J. Cole, I think they give this album a little more credit than they would other projects that he's done in years past. I think that's because of a clear shift in Cole's focus with this project, which is something that I really thought about coming into the project, is that the last two albums, For Your Eyes Only and KOD, were both albums that were literally J. Cole talking from another person's perspective. He wasn't talking about himself at all in any of those projects. He was really just, For Your Eyes Only was a story about was about a childhood friend of his that passed, and it was all through that person's lens. And then KOD was through the multiple lens of people struggling with addiction, young artists, all of these different things, Uncle Sam, so many different characters. We've gotten for the last, that's since we haven't gotten J. Cole since 2014 Forest Hills Drive. We haven't gotten his thoughts, his real perspective. And he talked about that in the documentary, and that was something that I expected coming into the album. And that's what we got. And, I think the reception's been great. I think a lot of people put it very high up in J. Cole's catalog. And I'm one of those people as well that puts it there very high up because I think it's a very solid body of work. I think it's a great body of work. And, it's a special album. It's a special moment. It marks a definitive chapter in his career, where this is as he's talked about, the start of the end. Essentially, this is the kind of the process to the retirement. It kind of started earlier with Revenge of the Dreamers and the features that he was doing, but this is his first body of work since him acknowledging the idea of retiring. And this isn't his last album, but this is on the path to his last album. And so it's a big moment. And I think that it's been met with great reception. And, I'm one of those people that also is very high on this album.
Yeah, definitely. And as everybody knows, especially for our old Trill Pod listeners that have listened to Chris and I since the beginning of time, know that I've always been very critical of J. Cole and his work. And if you've listened further, I have made a reawakening, I guess, if you will, on J. Cole and his discography to really see that he's grown and developed into a mature artist. And this body of work right here, the off season, it really shows that. It shows what he's capable of. It shows what he has experienced, shows what he's been through. And I'm really happy with this album and how it turned out. Pfeiffer with the comment, "Pride is the Devil" is the best song on the album. Now, Pfeiffer's a big Lil Baby guy, so I can see that. I love
Lil Baby. Shout out to Lil Baby. Shout out to Pfeiffer, my guy. And "Pride is the Devil." The one thing I love that song, but the one thing about it, man, is that Amine sample that it uses, the "I Can't Decide" off of Amine's last album, Limbo. Now, I'm a big Amine fan, so for a lot of people, this song will hit "Pride is the Devil." But for me, I think of that Amine song every time, and it's the only thing that keeps it from being my favorite song. I love J. Cole's part on it. I love Baby's part on it. Overall, it's a great song. But every time I hear that melody, I think of the Amine, "I can't decide if it's like," I just go there. And so yeah, that's a great song off the album though.
All right. So that begs the question, Chris, what is your favorite song? You can even give me your top two, then I'll give you my top two on this album.
Perfect. My top two are really interesting, and they are the intro and the outro, 95 South and Hunger on Hillside. I think those two records are absolutely excellent. I'll never forget, I was listening to it with my boy, as I always do on drops, and we're listening to this album for the first time. When 95 South comes on, you first hear Cameron come in, and I'm just like, oh my God, like he got Killer Cam on this. Like, this is crazy. He doesn't do features. He hid the features, so we don't know what's coming. But that was kind of when I heard Killer Cam on here, I'm like, okay, I think he's going to actually have some features on this album. But he's just talking, and he's just talking, you know what time it is? It's Cold World. And then J. Cole just comes in with a level of confidence using that Hove sample. And oh my God, I love it, bro. It sounds like something in high school basketball that would have came out the tunnel to ready to drop 30. But knowing me, I wouldn't have been able to drop 30. But it puts you in that mood, like it's game time. And then Cole comes in like a seasoned vet, talking his talk at a very highly confident level. If I'm betting on myself, then I completely double down. In the line, of course, watch your 30-song album do a measly 100,000. If any artist does 100,000, your label is happy. But for J. Cole to be like, your 30-song album barely does 100,000. Meanwhile, I don't even have to do any promo, and I go platinum almost instantaneous. And I do a couple 100,000 easy. He did 300,000 almost with no physical sales. That's insane to me. Like that is a number that very few artists, maybe 3 or 4 other artists in the game can do besides J. Cole. And so for him to have that level of confidence, and of course, everybody's been running the Mario bar to death, which was a hard bar, but just was great. And then he has Killer Cam come back in, and then J. Cole just goes to another octave. He brings the energy up. He switches it up, which is another thing I wanted from Cole on this project. I wanted him to rap at a high level. I expected him to rap at a very high level, but I expected him to be dynamic. Don't be static like he's been accused of being in the past, where he just raps the same way for each song. Switch it up, change up your flows, change up your vocal inflections, do all these different things. And that's what he did on this record. And then, of course, ending it with the Lil Jon "Put Your Hood Up" sample, which is absolutely phenomenal. It was an experience that I'll honestly never forget listening to that intro. And then the outro, "Hunger on Hillside," to flip it all the way around, sounds like a championship banner being raised. And it sounds like Cole really just reflecting on his legacy. I love the way the beat builds. Cole builds with the beat. It comes in instrument by instrument almost. And J. Cole, like his octaves raised throughout the song. It's just a perfect album because the intro makes you want to listen to the album. and then the outro makes you want to listen to the intro again. And it just creates a loop. And when this album came out, I had intentions of listening to it one time that night, and I had to be up at 8 a.m. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to get done with this around 1. I'm going to get 7 hours of sleep. I have to be up at 8, and then I can do my thing for the day. I ended up listening to the album 3 times that night, 3 whole times, not counting maybe running some other tracks just on the side, whatever. So it became something that, like, it just did what it's supposed to do as a body of work: start strong and finish strong. And I think those 2 records are honestly my most favorite, my most listened to. But I really love every record on this album, but those are my 2 favorites.
Yeah, and that song that you mentioned at the end, "Hunger on Hillside," that actually made my honorable mention for my top 2. So It's very close in there. I do have 95 South in there, and then "Applying Pressure" is my number 2.
Oh man. When those horns came in, dude, I was just like, oh my God. I was like, this is like, he put the horns and the lasers in there. And shout out J. Cole for dropping the video today for that, and having my boy Dave East in there, who he shouted out in the song. But yeah, that was a dope record, man.
Yeah, it was. And I really got a Nas feel from that song.
Oh yeah.
Kind of had Nas flow, very similar beat to Nas. And there's some Illmatic references there, just audio references, that just how you'd have to know 90s rap to really resonate with that and make that connection. But I saw
also
that
had
connection
one on 95 South, if you remember. He had the "Sleep is the Cousin of Death."
Yep. He had, and they're sprinkled in there, and I think that's the direction. If Cole wants to keep doing this, and I know he's on his road to retirement, maybe not very soon, but at some point, I think that if he goes kind of in that more retro kind of direction, I think that he can find some massive success in that, because he can really vibe in that same light with those flows, with those beats, with those 808s, everything kind of meshes really perfectly.
That's a good point.
I like that a lot, especially about this album in specific, but definitely about those 2 tracks.
Yeah, man, it's a great album, man. Like when I did the review, that's at this time we're going live, is dropping tomorrow with my boy Will Gill. Normally I pick my couple tracks, the guest picks their couple tracks, we talk, we get out of there. And so this one, we're like, all right, let's figure out if this is a classic. So we went track by track and asked where the skip is, what songs we aren't feeling. And so it was a very different review style, and that I think speaks to the quality of this album, for us to be having those kind of discussions as it drops.
Definitely 100%, and this is just a great project. He did not fail to disappoint. And he did fail to disappoint. What am I saying here, Chris? Help me out here. So he definitely had his listeners, his core listeners, J. Cole's core listeners. He definitely had them hooked. Hopefully they had some appreciation for some of that 90s stuff. But I think he brought in some new listeners, some new audiences that maybe he wouldn't have had before, that you didn't see in Forest Hills Drive. You didn't really see in KOD. And that really was the icing on the cake for this project in particular. And it was kind of like a big release because, like you said, from the perspective aspect of things, now a lot of music listeners, rap listeners, whoever enthusiasts you really talk about, they're not looking at that, seeing the different perspectives that J. Cole has rapped in the past. So seeing him speak on his own behalf for a change is kind of a breath of fresh air, but it's also a eureka moment for the big Cole fans.
Absolutely, because some people may not really pay attention to that until they realize what's happening. And you got to think about it. These people love J. Cole, like they love him for who he is. And so for him to, for the last couple albums, give very interesting perspectives. I love the concepts of both those albums, and I like those albums. But Cole fans fell in love with J. Cole. They love his ability to go into other people's worlds and analyze things. That's very Nas-like. But for him, he is at his best, at least in his fans' eyes, when he is telling his story. They want to know about J. Cole. They want to know about who he is as a person, because that is the person that they fell in love with, the artist that before up until 2014 Forest Hills Drive, J. Cole was giving you all of himself. He was giving you the strugglings of being in college, of trying to figure out the lane of basketball or rap, just life direction stuff, a lot of personal stuff with his family and his city and all of his trials and tribulations that he went through. And then 2014, him blossoming into a star, into a superstar. He gave you all of that perspective, and then he shifted. And this is something that, fans have been missing, I think. And I think that's why another reason why this project is resonating with them is because they're getting J. Cole. They're getting the person that they fell in love with now 7 years ago with 2014 Forest Hills Drive, or maybe even sooner, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, however long it's been since the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And just seeing all those steps, seeing how they transpired into who J. Cole is now and who he is as an artist. It's really fascinating, but it's also satisfying to see how far he's come, and to see, what he's been able to make of his rap career, from the trenches, basically starting out, and all his hardships and trials and tribulations, like you mentioned. Seeing him come from that into something like this is a very relatable concept that a lot of us can really relate to some degree. And I think that's a very important connection to make, because the more relatable you make your music, the more listeners you're going to get, because you're going to be people listening to it that you never thought were, just like our podcast right here. I'll have people come at me out of the blue, be like, yo, that was a great podcast last night. And I'll be like, wow, I had no idea you were even listening to it or even knew about it. And that's something that's really satisfying, and it makes me feel good knowing that I'm reaching an audience that I have no idea that I'm reaching. And there's a lot of connections that can be made between the album and what everyone else is going through in the I guess in the drive and the what am I trying to say? The grind. I guess the grind.
Right.
Just the whole process of the grind can really be related to a lot of this album, a lot of what this album has to offer. So
absolutely, man. It's cliche, but the journey is everything. And sometimes it takes the person that's not on the journey, but watching the journey to really appreciate the journey, because you, me, whoever is on this path that they're looking at, they're
we lost you a little bit there, Chris. I don't know if it might be a connection issue. One sec. Let's try to save him. Let's try to get him back. There we go. Is that better? Can I hear you now?
I just
Yeah, I can't hear you at all, bro.
Oh man.
That's a little better. That's a little better. Is everything good? Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I was able to hear you the whole time. I don't know what was going on, but I saw my screen flashing my video, so I didn't know if I was losing you here or not. But if that happens again, do you want me to just refresh, or how do you want me to handle it?
You could just refresh it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, we'll figure it out. Right now we're good though. So
right,
where were we? So what were you saying?
Yeah, we were just talking about the J. Cole, the journey of it that you brought up, which I thought was an excellent point, in that, sometimes whether it's me, you, J. Cole, whoever, sometimes when you're on the journey, you're the one that's focused on the next step, and it takes somebody that's watching it from the side to really appreciate it and to really kind of see wow, look at the growth here. Look at the awesome moves that he's made. Look at the work ethic he's putting in. It's all things that sometimes we on the journey can take for granted, or not even take for granted, just fail to realize because we're focused on the end goal so much, where somebody that's just consuming the process is just looking at it as a process rather than the actual end goal. They're projecting what they think, you could be, what you could do. But at the end of the day, they're really just focused on where you're at in this moment, because they're listening to you, because they like you in this moment and where you're at. So I think that's a very important point that you brought up. And the only question I want to have on you before we jump to playoffs here is, let's say, let's say this, where would it be among your J. Cole? I know you haven't listened to every single J. Cole project, mixtape, album, whatever, but among the J. Cole's discography, do you put this very high up? Do you put this in somewhere in the middle, the bottom? Where do you have it?
I put this very high up. I think I put KOD and Forest Hills Drive below this project. I might even put this at the top just because this is something that's very fresh, something that's from J. Cole's own perspective, something that's very relatable, something that people can relate with. And then also on top of all that, you have your 90s rap references that are very much sporadically sprinkled throughout this project. And it's a nice touch. I really like that touch, and props to all the MCs and all the producers that were involved in making all these beats and all the features too, that really made this album what it was, and it made it better than people expected by having the insane beats and having the features on there. And having J. Cole's own perspective throughout many of these songs. So I'd put it up at the very top.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm glad you brought up the features, because that was something I talked about in my podcast and in my episode of The Wave on Instagram, was just my quick thoughts of like, this is what I wanted from J. Cole. Like, it's okay. You did the double platinum with no features once, and then I feel like he kind of got in this headspace of, I don't need features. And my problem with J. Cole's records have always been, I like them and I think that they're excellent. And I think that, there's very few artists that could hold your attention for a whole album like J. Cole does, especially when you're carrying most of the production, you're doing all of the vocals, everything, that you're not really using too many samples. J. Cole, you can kind of do so many different things.
Yeah, you kind of broke up on us again there, Chris. I got a little bit of that, but yeah, having the features on there is super important, and having everybody, kind of not being a little bit more humble than you might want to be is more beneficial going down the long stretch of everything, because you're going to have to bring people, and it's like the journey, right? So you're not going to get there on your own. You might get there on your own, but it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer than if you took some people with you to help you achieve that same goal, and you had some help along the way. It'll streamline that process. So using features and using other artists and other producers really helps you elevate your entire rap repertoire.
Yeah, it helps you raise the ceiling. It helps you
helps you raise the ceiling. Is that what you said? Is that what else did you say? I think we're having some technical difficulties. Are you still there?
Yeah. Would you like me to refresh?
Yeah, just refresh the whole page and then just rejoin the stream. Maybe that'll work.
All right, let's try that real quick.
Okay. We'll wait for him to refresh it real quick, and he'll join back in here momentarily. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. There we go.
All right.
Are you there?
Yeah. I don't know. I keep bouncing back out. I'm hearing you every time, but it's cutting.
Are you seeing? Do you see like a Wi-Fi bar in the top left? It might be your connection. Like in the top left of our screen.
Of our screen, I do not see one.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because usually it'll tell you when your connection's going bad, and then it'll lag on my end. This sounds pretty good though. This sounds pretty good. We'll just do this, and I'll cut this out for the actual audio version. No sweat. But yeah,
good. Sorry everyone. Technical
no, don't worry about it. This is stuff that happens, and we have to grow and adapt through this. And there's flaws within having virtual podcasts, and it's something that we have to deal with. Not only just you and me, but there's a lot of people dealing with this type of thing. in the world of the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And it seems like we're getting out of the woods of that now. But even
Hopefully.
once COVID's done with, people are going to be doing virtual podcasts for a long time because there's people you want to talk to that aren't in your immediate location. It's not always convenient to, have a podcast in person. So it's stuff we got to roll with the punches with. But in saying that, let's move on to the NBA playoffs. Let's talk about how the play-in tournament transpired and where we're at now and what we're kind of looking at going into the future. So I'll actually pull up a bracket that I've been kind of studying, and it kind of reminds me of March Madness, so it gets me a little bit hyped to look at. So let's look at that real quick. Here we go. So I guess what are your takeaways from the playoff or the play-in tournament until now? Has everything gone as expected for you, or have you been surprised?
I think for the most part, yes. For the most part, yes. I mean, the real only exception right now, I actually filled out a bracket with a couple close friends and we put money on it. And we did like game by game type thing, as far as like we predicted who would win every series and what the series score would be of each series. And I've had everything right up until Memphis. I predicted Memphis to get into the playoffs and win that last spot over Golden State. I thought that Memphis was going to, as long as the Lakers didn't lose that game, I thought Memphis matched up pretty well against Golden State. They're a tough, frisky team. I did project they would get swept by the Jazz. However, I was under the assumption that Donovan Mitchell would play game one, and he did not. Now the reports are that he's expected to play game two, but again, I'm not sure. He was also expected to play game one. So other than that, I mean, the Clippers and Mavs, I didn't expect the Mavs to necessarily win game one, but I thought they'd win one of the first two. I think that's a series that goes 6. Denver, Portland is kind of hard to call right now. I had Denver winning that series, and Phoenix, LA, I knew that was going to be a battle. So it's no surprise to me that Phoenix is up 1-0. I did have the Lakers winning that. Philly and Washington, I had Philly sweeping that. What do we got here? Knicks, Hawks. That was a good game, and I expected that to go 7. So that to me is no surprise there that the first game came down to a buzzer. The one thing I am shocked about is that I thought Milwaukee was going to beat Miami comfortably. I thought they were going to beat them in 5 or 6, but ultimately what ended up happening is I did not think that Milwaukee was just going to stomp them like they did last night. I mean, they were up by 30 for most of the game. It was ridiculous. They absolutely just destroyed Miami and steamrolled them. And then Brooklyn, Boston, I expect that, that will be a sweep, but I also expect Brooklyn to kind of not be at full force because they're kind of figuring out, the guys have only played 8 games together. The finals have been great, man. Like they've been a hell of a journey so far. The games have been close. They've been fun to watch. I got no complaints, man. Have you been enjoying it?
Oh yeah, I've been watching it, been enjoying it a lot. A couple surprises. I didn't expect the Heat to go down 2-0. I expected that series to go a little bit, be a little bit closer than it is right now, maybe 1-1. But obviously Milwaukee has completely penetrated the Heat's defense and just steamrolled them offensively. So it's been kind of tough, and it's got Miami and everybody that plays for Miami on their heels, basically have their backs against the wall, and they're forced to come down from an 0-2 deficit. And that's daunting. Whenever you face that in the first round of the playoffs, it's really daunting. So you're going to have to take that with a grain of salt, take it game by game. That's the beauty of the NBA playoffs, is that you have 7 games to basically show your skills and, fix anything that might have not been working going into the first 2 games or the first game or wherever position you're at. But having those chances to reset are very important. But going down 0-2, you got to put the pedal to the metal and at least bring it to 2-1 to make it interesting. Absolutely. So, but Phoenix and LA, I think that might be a tight one. I can see LA winning a couple games in that series, but I actually have Phoenix winning that one. Just I want to see it, man. They showed out in the bubble and they didn't have a chance to play for it all. just because of the seeding and how the bubble was structured. But I'm really anticipating Phoenix and everybody there, Devin Booker, a lot of these guys, I think that they have potential to play deep into the playoffs. And just to see the Suns really make a run, I think that would be cool to see. And then if they knock the Lakers off in the first round of the playoffs, I feel like that'd be show stopping.
Yeah. There's a path for a lot of teams to get out the West. Like the West is wide open. You can convince me that anyone not named Memphis can make it out the West, in my opinion. The Lakers could make it out the West if they can turn the page and get healthy. The Suns can if the Lakers aren't healthy. They can easily beat any team in the West in a Luka looks like the second best player in the conference. So for me, Dallas you always have a chance when you have such a great player. I mean, the way he plays is fantastic. He lifts that ceiling of that team like nobody I've seen since LeBron. So, Portland, also another team that maybe things break right. Dame is a big time player. He could maybe take the Blazers far into the Western Conference. The Clippers obviously got a lot of talent, but they've had their history of collapsing. So it's really tough. And Utah's a great team as well. So
yeah, it's really kind of up in the air for the West. I think that it's a little more limited. The lane to the next rounds, the semis, and the finals, I think, is a little tighter for the East. There's a couple teams. I would say the only toss up, at least of what we're seeing right now, is the Knicks and the Hawks. That's the toss up. Just by seeing that Trae Young buzzer beater that we saw the other day, that was huge. But that's going to be a toss up matchup going into the semis. So.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited, man. I think it's going to be cool. I think I really anticipate somebody winning it all that we might not have expected to. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but I think it's not going to be who everybody thinks it's going to be.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll tell you my bracket. So my bracket ended with the finals being Philadelphia versus the Los Angeles Clippers and the Clippers winning. That's my prediction. I know I'm not going to hold you to it because you just said it's open, and I totally agree with that. I just did some of them have played one game, some of them have played two. But where's your gut telling you as far as who's making it out of each conference?
I guess let me see here. So, do you want me to just pick one team? It's like who I have in the finals?
Yeah. Just pick your finals if you had to guess right now what it is.
Okay, so I really like Brooklyn. I'll take Brooklyn out of the East. I think they can beat Milwaukee in the semis. Then the big hurdle, I think they're going to have to face Philly for sure in the conference finals. So that's going to be a toss-up. I like Brooklyn, though. And then in the West, I got Utah and the Suns. So it sounds cliche. It's the 1 and the 2 seed, but I have the Suns winning that one. I think I can see the Suns and Brooklyn being in the finals personally.
Wow. That would be awesome. As a Chris Paul fan, I would love to see that happen.
That would be sweet, wouldn't it? You got a lot of superstars on both these teams. Yeah. I mean, maybe a little less on the Suns. There's some unsung heroes, not big name guys yet, but there's definitely athletes on that team. And I think that they can really do some damage. I mean, they just got to get out of this conference or out of this game, this series with the Lakers. If they can get out of there alive, then I think they have a good chance of winning in the semis.
I agree. I picked the Lakers. I picked the Lakers, but I'm telling you, if the Suns get out of it, I'm not sleeping on the Suns getting to the conference finals or the finals. I think they're a damn good team, and I think the West is just that wide open due to, unfortunately, some injuries and some health and everything cracking the way it did. It's totally wide open. It makes it for fun basketball, man. Like, I'm watching all of these games, all these series, and I picked my bracket, and I'm a confident person because I watch a lot of basketball, but I'd be lying to you if I said I was totally confident in the Clippers, man. The Clippers, they could lose any round and it wouldn't shock me. They could lose to Dallas in the first round. That's the team I picked to win the championship. But I could also see a world in which they lose in the first round. This is fun, man. This is very uncharted territory for the NBA. Usually you have one or two teams at the top and that's it. But this is a year where anybody can win it. It feels refreshing. It feels fun.
Yeah, it feels fun. It feels like it should be. And having to see in this bracket like it is, I've never really, and I've been watching a lot of NBA playoffs. I've never seen a bracket be even drawn up. And I'm sure they've been around and everything like that. But just to see it in front of me, to look at it, and to see that damn near every one of these teams could win it all, it is refreshing. It is a good feeling. The reason I picked the Suns, too, aside from the athletes' perspective, I see the Phoenix Suns as a team. And I go back to the bubble. They're a team that is playing for a reason. They're playing with a vengeance.
Yep.
They're playing for lost opportunities, and they have unfinished business. Let's just be honest. They have unfinished business that they want to get done, and they have another chance at it here in 2021. So I see them really doing some damage in this playoffs, and I really do. It's going to come down to execution and down to performance in high intensity, high opportune clutch situations. So that's going to be the difference maker if they can excel or if they'll crumble in that atmosphere, because they've never really been in an atmosphere similar to this other than the bubble. So yeah, it'll be crazy to see, man.
It'll be fun, man. I'm watching every game I can. As soon as we get off this live stream, I'm turning on the games.
Yep, me too. I got a couple bets out tonight. My bets are Brooklyn money line against Boston, and who else plays tonight, Chris?
The other games tonight are I just had it. Let's see here. I have it right here. Sorry.
I think it's Phoenix. Phoenix and Lakers
Suns,
play tonight.
Yeah. And
so I got Phoenix money line. Yeah, that's right. Oh, Dallas and Clippers play tonight too?
Yes, as well on NBA TV, which most people don't have that. I have it, but if you don't have it, you got to illegally stream it because that's going to be a great game.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's the one I didn't see on my docket, so I didn't pick that game. But if I had to pick that game, I'd have to pick the Clippers, getting the revenge game, getting in there and getting a dub against Dallas. So I guess I can make this live bet right now. I got Phoenix money line, Clippers money line, and Brooklyn money line. Take it to the bank, put it in a parlay, maybe throw a couple bucks on it and see what happens. But I like those picks.
Brooklyn's up 14 right now.
I love it. I'm going to turn that game on as soon as we get done here. That actually brings us right to the end, though. I think that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else to touch on as far as the playoffs?
Nah, man. I think I said my piece, man. It's simply put, it's great basketball. It's fun to watch, and I think if you're sleeping on it, you should definitely wake up, because regular season was kind of dull at some points, but these games have been intense, man, especially now that they expanded the arenas to have more people. The amount of passion, the amount of energy that's in these buildings, I think home court is going to matter this year, because these players are not used to playing in arenas anymore, at least packed arenas. And so it's going to take some time. And these fans, they've been locked up for a year. They're ready to go rowdy. They're ready to get wild. That's always been a fun thing with college basketball, the intensity of the fans. And I think NBA has some of that right now, because it's so much pent up aggression from, the last year that we've been through.
Exactly. And everybody's kind of wants to get back to normal. I know the athletes want it. The fans definitely want it. Now since the fans are getting that opportunity, I think that they're going to come out in full fashion in 100%, at 100% intensity. And that might make the players a little bit nervous, because they're not really used to that anymore. They got used to no fans or limited fans. So
right,
there might be some nerves getting in the way of some of these teams.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun, man. Everybody watch these games, man. I'm telling you, it's great TV.
Exactly. Check it out. All right, that brings us to the end, guys. Once the playoffs develop a little bit more, I'm sure Chris and I will hop on another show and we'll talk about it a little bit more, so we can get a better picture of what's going on. So I'm excited for that. But is there anything else you want to plug right now on this show, Chris?
No, man. I mean, you really do a great job of plugging me with, putting my ads on there for Twitter and Instagram at Real Chris Platty. I appreciate you for doing that. That's the best place to stay tuned. I got the wave. I got the live stream Fridays. Everybody that's in this live stream, John, you included. It's a very casual event, and it's a very casual live stream, I should say, and so it's just a way to hang out. Then I have the J. Cole album review coming tomorrow, which I spoke on earlier. So thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me on your platform, and you're always gracious with your platform as far as sharing and plugging me and promoting me, and you do it at a level that a lot of other platforms don't do, and so I appreciate you for that, man.
100%, man. We're always here to help everybody eat, especially if you're helping us out. Chris has done a lot of work for me and a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past. So I'm really thankful for that. So I'm willing to go to the ends of the earth to plug him and everything he's doing. We want to see everybody that's working with us, everybody that's been a part of what I've been a part of and what I've been trying to build. I want to see them all eat and all succeed. So it's all 100% willing, and I'm willing to do it 100 times over. So I'm just really happy to have you on the show, and have you participate, give us your insights, especially on NBA stuff and hip hop, because those are your two strong suits. And it's just fun. It's every time we can kind of have a conversation, it's just a good time.
My guy, I always enjoy it, and thank you. You know my skill set. It don't diversify too much outside of those two pockets, but when those two pockets are there, you got me, and I'm here for you. I appreciate you, my guy.
Yes, sir. Always. All right, guys. That brings us to the end of the show, the live stream / podcast, sponsored by Gin Pros and Trill Pod. Make sure to check out Chris's podcast, Strictly Hip Hop and Strictly Hoop Talk. And that's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you find your podcasts. He streams it a lot of places. His RSS feed is all over the internet. And he's also very active on Twitter. So follow him at Real Chris Platty on Twitter and Instagram. But we'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to the show. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. Have a great night.